Yes, sir.
Time we've ever had a guest. So let's go ahead. Y'all ready to bring him on?
Let's do it.
Bring him on.
All right. I'm gonna accept his invite. He should be coming in here shortly. I don't know what it's gonna look like with 4 people. We've never done it.
There we go.
Here we go.
Here we go. This is perfect. This is it. This is what I hoped for. How's it going? Introducing tonight Eric Knowlton, our guest, our number 1 fan,
AKA Day One.
Can you claim that title? We'll have to see.
Proudly. Yes.
My mom might fight you for it, but I'm just kidding. My mom doesn't know what a podcast is.
Shout out to Mr.
Got a mother's love. I mean, it knows no end.
That's the way it works. It's fun, guys. I don't know, with all this action going on, with 4 of us going on here, I don't know where to look. Do we look at who's talking?
I think that'd be a good idea.
People critiqued me for looking down at my iPad. I heard your feedback. I'm still looking down at my iPad because I haven't changed my setup yet. Hey, look, blame the Facebook people. I can't go live from my laptop and bring guests on. So it's Facebook's fault. I don't know why.
I mean, just a couple more boxes and we can go ahead and get that Brady Bunch theme going.
I agree. We should.
My guy.
We should. Can we invite more people? We cannot invite more. We have been tapped out.
Oh.
Maybe it's just because there's nobody here to invite. I don't know. We're testing our technology. As limited as it may be, our technology. We are a podcast recorded strictly off of cell phones and magical editing that has gotten us over. Have we hit 3 million views? I don't think we have we?
I don't think so, yeah.
But 2 million views, though.
Oh,
I mean, that's
yeah.
something to brag about.
Yeah.
I'll start adding up stuff. We'll get to the points. We'll get the decimal places. 2.7 million views. I don't know if that's true. I might have made that
I know
up.
Jordan's 1.7. Deion Sanders is 550K. I'm pretty sure that Scott Skiles is over 1 million. So we might be at 3 million.
We might
Mm-hmm.
be. If you combine TikTok and Facebook and our 3 people on Instagram, who I've already established isn't actually my mom, even though that's who I've said has been watching us on Instagram. My mom doesn't know what Instagram is. Look, so we'll be on. My mom does know what Facebook is. So here's the question. Here's what we're talking about. We're derailing everything and asking, why is my mom not watching my podcast? That's what I want to know.
I mean, she's in the target group now for Facebook.
Absolutely. I remembered when I was cool for having a Facebook, and I have suddenly now gotten to the point where I'm not cool for having a Facebook. It's amazing how life works.
Oh, yeah. My 13-year-old was like, Dad, that's such an L.
Right. All of our children have made fun of us for recording our podcast on Facebook. Every one of
they
us.
have.
Nobody uses Facebook.
She's
For
like,
real.
TikTok Live. What?
I invited my son to watch us tonight, and he's like, he's 18 years old. He's like, I don't have
boy.
Facebook. So
Yeah.
Like, what are we
How
gonna
do
do?
you live without Facebook?
You know what they say? I mean, you know what they say, Drew? Sometimes you have to have difficult conversations with your loved ones. So that might be a question you got to ask your mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's not
There
following.
There you go.
You know?
Why is my mom not following us on Facebook? I'm going to call her tomorrow. Why are you not following my podcast on Facebook? And she'll be like, what?
Or, hey,
is
when we
this?
make it big, just tell her she's not getting any of the money.
Exactly.
I think
You
Ross,
thought this
that's
was
the
your
winning
game
formula
plan.
there.
Home for you, lady. It's a good thing she's not watching tonight. All right, now that I've derailed us, let's talk about our topics. All right. I'm not covering an agenda. We'll get to them as we get there. I tried to cover an agenda, then you guys all jumped in really quickly. We're getting this down. We're only 8 minutes deep, and we're already starting on what was planned. That's never happened in the history of the podcast. So not only do we have our longest listener here, but we're setting records left and right. So here we go. Number 1 thing, I mean, with the playoffs, we'll get to that, right? But the biggest story from the playoffs. That's not the biggest story at all. It's the funniest story, but it's not. Is it funny? Should I say that? I don't know. But that's the kicker for the Dallas Cowboys and his amazing records that he has broken. He has cemented his legacy for missed extra points. Right? So we're talking about the yips, as you like to call it, Josh.
That's right.
The yips.
The yips.
So what are the yips, Josh?
So the yips are when you are in any athletic profession and all of a sudden you just can no longer do what you've been doing for years and years and years. You know, obviously a field goal kicker, that repetitive motion of kicking the ball through the uprights every time, the same exact process every single time. Or if it's in basketball, the shooting motion, or baseball, you know, a pitch, a throw, you know, from the infield, that sort of thing. So anything where all of a sudden you're nervous to do whatever it is that you've been doing for 10, 15, 20 years.
So basically the yips are whenever you take something that is routine and you turn it into Charles Barkley's golf swing. That's,
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Yes. That would be a great example for sure.
I mean, that swing is yips alone. I mean, you know, but
I've heard that he's actually been to a psychologist about his swing. Now I don't know. I have friends, you know. In fact, Rod and I have a mutual friend that's like really good friends with Charles Barkley. I don't know that seems like character for the guy to go to a psychologist for something like that, but that is the rumor that he has sought professional help for his golf swing and he just can't get it out of his head. So the yips are serious. Maybe there's a pill he can take. Do we have a prescription for the yips yet? Science, we need to get on that. So Josh, what's your number one example of the yips?
My number one example of the yips is, all the listeners obviously know I'm a diehard Steeler fan. And the Steelers were playing the Indianapolis Colts in the divisional game in 2006. And the Steelers had just sacked Peyton Manning on like the 3-yard line. Steelers were up by 3. I'm trying not to say we, right? Because I had never played for the Steelers, but I'll probably still say we at some point when I get excited. But Roethlisberger hands the ball off to Bettis on 1st and goal from the 3, and somebody punches the ball out. And one of the reasons, there are many reasons why I'll never forget this play, but I was in Chicago and I had high definition TV in 2006 in my condo in Chicago. And when we sacked Manning, I called my dad, you know, to celebrate with him in Orlando, and he didn't have HD TV yet. So I'm talking to him, and all of a sudden he hangs up the phone on me. I was like, why did you just hang up on me? Well, if y'all remember, HD was always a little bit behind the regular telecast. So then I see the fumble, and Nick Harper picks up the ball, and he's running full speed. I mean, picks it up with all the momentum in the world, and he's running, and the only person in front of him is Ben Roethlisberger. The problem is they're running in the same direction, both running towards the Colts end zone. And so Roethlisberger has a choice to make, and he decided, I think he looked on the big screen, and so he threw his arm to the right, and he tackled Nick Harper, okay? So Peyton Manning comes back onto the field. I'm like, oh, here we go. There's a minute left. He's going to take him down for a touchdown. The Steelers stop him for a routine field goal by none other than the most accurate field goal kicker in the history of the NFL at the time, Mike Vanderjagt. I want to say he was like, 95, 96%, something like that. And he comes out and he shanks his kick to tie the game. So we obviously end up winning the Super Bowl. Correct me if I'm wrong, yo. I want to talk about this in pregame. But I think he went on to talk a lot of trash about Peyton Manning.
Yep.
And the sideline reporter at the Pro Bowl asked Peyton Manning, hey, what did you think about what Vanderjagt said about you? And Peyton Manning said, I'm throwing touchdown passes to Jerry Rice, and you're asking me about some idiot kicker.
Yep.
Well, I'm pretty sure that was his last game as an Indianapolis Colt.
Mm-hmm.
He went to the Dallas Cowboys. Maybe they have kicking problems these. And I believe he was out.
Yeah.
So that's my Yips story. That obviously the Steelers ended up winning their 5th Super Bowl, won one for the thumb, and of course now have 6. So
Josh, what you're telling me is Mike Vanderjagt is the real life version of Ray Finkel.
that's right. That's exactly right.
You know, and this, we used to just think that there couldn't possibly be like a real life version of Ray Finkel. That was like just an extreme caricature of just the misadventures of kickers who end up going on to other crazy things. But sure enough, that's as close to it as I've seen, like from amazing kicker to shanking, you know, what was, I mean, the equivalent of like an extra point.
Right.
You know?
That's exactly right.
Have we checked on him lately?
Mike Vanderjagt?
Yeah, is he a detective now, potentially?
Name Einhorn?
Yeah.
We should tag him, man. He probably has nothing better to do than come on our show and talk to us.
Yeah, I don't know that I want to be verbally abused on my own podcast. That's just look, there's a reason why I make fun of celebrities in the privacy of my own home, and it's because they can't actually do anything to me. They're never gonna they're never once. I had a podcast, and I didn't say this on my podcast, my partner said this. And it was about how he hated a certain celebrity. And I tagged him on Twitter relentlessly. I posted that podcast every single day, literally tagging him in it every single day, and he never responded. It was Michael Rappaport, by the way, if y'all are curious as to what person. My friend hates that guy. It's amazing.
I thought I told you that we won't stop. I thought I told you that we won't stop.
There's no reason. There's no reason to hate him, right? There's no reason. But he just has this hatred for him. And I tagged him in hopes one day that he would say something. I could run and take that comment and be like, "He listened!" Ha! But it never happened. So I feel safe online making fun of anybody with celebrity status, as long as they can't say anything to me. That's. So we'll, you know what? We'll circle back to me, guys. Rod, what about you? Yips, they're not just for football, right?
No, they're not. And in fact, but it still goes in the same theme of guys who are usually automatic all of a sudden just go yip crazy. And I'm sorry. Hey, you're on the great end of that, Josh, with the Steelers, right? Unfortunately, in the basketball world, in the 1995 finals, you were not on the good end of the yips. And we are talking about Mr. Nick Anderson of the Orlando Magic. I mean, they had conquered the Bulls, right? That was supposed to be the standard, because back then, once you finally beat that nemesis, there was no looking back.
He actually stole the ball from Jordan.
Yes.
To steal that game. Yep.
And you're going against a Rockets team who was really almost a Cinderella story to even get there at that point, because it was certainly not the same team that won the championship the year before. You're in your building, game one, all the momentum on your side. All you got to do is make one free throw to put the game out of reach. And if you just have to make one free throw to put the game out of reach, wouldn't you want to have a guy on the line that shoots 85%? He missed not one, not two, not three, but 4 free throws at the end of the game. Just one of them. And you get away with the victory.
For people that aren't quick with math, that is 0%, not 85. That's how many. How many? Yeah.
Too soon, Rod. Too
soon. Yeah.
But needless to say, Rockets go on to win that game in miraculous fashion, and the Magic gets swept after that. They never recovered. I mean, the team was a microcosm of what happened to Nick Anderson at that point. And of course, Nick Anderson's career was never the same after that.
Shaq left a couple years or a year later, and then Penny thereafter. Yep. Pretty much broke up the team.
Correct.
And what's so funny is Nick missed those first 2 free throws, and then what happened? He got his own rebound, and he was trying to get rid of the ball, and he got fouled.
Well, speaking of that, from an organizational yips standpoint, and I know we didn't talk about this earlier, but look at what's happened to the Falcons since they lost the Super Bowl when they blew the lead to the Patriots. And I said it to some friends of mine who are diehard Falcons fans, grew up in Georgia at the time. I was texting them at the time, and I said, when they lost that lead, I said, this franchise will never be the same. And they haven't been since then. So that's almost like an organizational yip. I mean, you've seen the direction of that franchise since then.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what was so crazy, their Twitter hashtag at that time was Rise Up.
Yeah.
They didn't realize they were rising up onto a big old mountain of crap. That's what they were rising up to.
Drew, remember what I said after that game, Drew? Do you remember?
I do remember.
I said for Atlanta, I said, this is the worst day since Sherman burned the city.
It is hands down the worst thing. Though situationally speaking, like, you talk about the organizational yips. I feel like they got a case of the Bills, right? They do that, and what we're seeing right now is the aughts Bills is what we're seeing, from mid-90s on, right? The Bills had a good run. They never could finish it.
4 straight Super Bowls.
Yeah, and they weren't even in the picture, not even in the talking until 2 years ago.
Yep.
Right? And they're still not in it, but they're at least being humored right now.
Yeah.
So it only takes 20 years. Atlanta will get over it.
I saw a talking head say today, I think the Buffalo Bills dynasty is over. And I was like, dynasty?
When did it begin?
Exactly.
I don't know how you end something that never started, but
I mean,
look,
if you count that loss to Kansas City in the playoffs last year as a dynasty, and maybe that's what they're still referring to.
Right.
Dynasty implies there's a king, and for kings you have to have rings, and they have 0. So
I don't think I've ever seen an organization get more credit for not winning than the Bills did for that game.
Well,
hey, it changed the overtime rules, right?
Yeah.
For the playoffs.
Yeah.
That game changed the overtime rules.
To be fair, I mean, we can joke around, but to be fair, I mean, you're taking it. You're the first runner-up in your whole division out of 16 teams. I mean, there is something to say there, I guess. To be the first loser in your division, but and now to do it, I guess they're the third loser in their division this year, fourth. I don't know how that math would work out. So there's something there, I'm not ready to fire coaches and make personnel changes too drastic if I'm them. But also I have to understand that every year is a rebuilding year until you win the Super Bowl, right? Because that's the only goal is the Super Bowl. That's it. Your goal is to not, we're gonna lose it in the second round of the playoffs. That'll be good.
I think that's a fair point, though. I was thinking about that. Sean McDermott, that's going to be a difficult, depending on how things go next year. They're the first, I saw the stat today, they're the first preseason favorite Super Bowl winner to not make the Super Bowl since the Seahawks in 2015.
Oh, yeah.
So, that's going to be a difficult, I think that's going to be a difficult decision for them, is can he get them over the hump?
Mm-hmm.
Next year. And I mean, he's done a tremendous job, and we all know extenuating circumstances this year, no question.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact remains, when you have a generational talent, how many years can you burn of his prime before you win it? So
true.
No, that's a great point.
And I'm sure y'all heard about Stephon Diggs, right? Just like taking off after the game.
Yeah.
Got all his belongings out of the locker room and was gone. And Duke Johnson, who's on the scout team, I guess now, kind of brought him back in. He stayed for a few minutes and then he left. So
Duke Johnson, that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah.
Was it he played in Canadian football for a little while?
He was with the Browns for a minute, too.
He played at Miami.
Yeah, he did.
For the Hurricanes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was with the Browns is where he was. Canada, Cleveland, same
I think
thing,
he was
right?
with the Texans, the Browns, a couple other teams. Yeah.
It's called a journeyman.
Yeah.
I mean, you can say the Canadian League because they've got the same number of NFL championships as the Browns.
Right. I mean, the laundry list of teams y'all just named, like, I really question if he wasn't playing in Canadian football, which I can't say that because look at the Cowboys picked up a guy from USFL and he actually did pretty good last night. But enough of this. We'll talk about this in a minute. We'll keep on topic here. Eric, what's your case of the yips you want to share with us?
All right, so I don't know that it would be my number one, but thought back to Markelle Fultz, number one pick in the draft to Philadelphia. Now, granted, he had a shoulder injury. He basically forgot how to shoot a basketball.
Yep.
He was, not that he was a marksman necessarily before, sharpshooter before he got into the league, but he basically forgot how to shoot a basketball, and he was the number one pick in the draft. A couple of baseball examples, of course, I think most listeners would probably remember Rick Ankiel, who, was having albeit a good career, and then all of a sudden couldn't throw the ball over the plate. And I think he got lifted in the first inning, I think in 2001, I think it was NLCS against the Mets. Couldn't throw the ball over the plate. And so he had 5 wild pitches on like 20 pitches thrown. And then, of course, being a Red Sox guy, I remember this was to a lesser degree, but John Lester could not hold runners on base because he could not throw. And in fact, if he ever fielded the ball, he'd have to underhand the ball to first base or run and touch the bag himself. So, just a couple of things there. And I was thinking about this too, actually, when you guys got to talking about this a little bit. Rod, being an Alabama fan, I think we've had some kickers with the yips.
Oh, man.
I don't want to sell anybody out, but I think we all remember there's been a couple of guys who could kick the ball and then all of a sudden literally just forgot how to kick the ball.
Yeah.
So,
but we won't name names.
It's funny that you said that because, pregame, I told you guys what my pick was going to be, and I'm still going to stick with that, but there's not really a big story there, right? Because my pick's Scott Norwood. Like, I don't even know if we could say he had the yips. He had like a microcosm of it, right? He missed one field goal and it was bad. I mean, like it wasn't just, it
was like their only legitimate chance at actually winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Super Bowl
but
25, if I'm not mistaken.
It was Super Bowl 25.
Against the Giants.
Yeah, against the Giants.
The great Whitney Houston national anthem.
4 seconds left in the game, he misses the field goal, the game-winning field goal, and of course goes down in history of losing another one. But time heals all wounds, right? Nobody's blaming him anymore for that per se. Y'all know my feelings. If you're putting your game in the kicker's hands, you probably deserve to lose the game because you shouldn't even be kicking field goals in the last 2 minutes of the game. But again, that's going to be the Drew Talbot rule change. Watch it coming in the NFL. No more kicks in the last 2 minutes of the game. But that was just a teaser. That was a teaser for what I was going to say. And the real point of the yips is that the yips are so prevalent in sports. Baseball is more superstitious than the other sports. I will give any baseball player that. We blame the yips on everything in baseball, like we might have a sophomore slump in other things, but baseball is the number one thing. But I think that the yips in college for sure can hurt your draft stock later, even if it wasn't necessarily the yips. People are scared because of the thing. And Eric, I'm sure you've seen this before in our podcast, and I've said this, almost every single episode. Kickers are never going to be the all-star playmaker. They're always going to be on SportsCenter because they miss. That's the only time a kicker is highlighted. And that is going to kill a kicker's draft stock if they're in college. Like, for example, a guy that you're familiar with named Adam Griffin, right? We all know that name, the guy that's popular for missing a 57-yard field goal that had no one on the field other than his 700-pound friends. It was him, a holder, and then six other, or not six other, but
with what you speak of.
Yeah,
but nine other guys that none of them weighed less than 300 pounds, right? And it blows an entire game. Did you know coming out of college, he was a top 5 kicker? Yeah. Coming out of college, and what NFL team did he play for?
Help me out.
Exactly. Yeah.
The same one I did.
Kick ruined it for him. He was a top 5 kicker. There is not a single top 5 kicker today in college that will not play at least one preseason game. They may not get drafted, but they're going to be signed for the preseason, and they're going to be on some practice squad. And, you know, we know that we don't get through kickers a lot, but top 5 kickers, and you don't even play a game, we know why you didn't play a game. It was because of one kick you missed that wasn't even a makeable kick in the first place. I mean, you're in the worst environment in a horrible range, 57 yards.
Sure.
And your whole draft stock goes down because of the yips.
Well, I mean, today he would have at least been able to get an NIL deal off of some antidepressant after that. So, I mean, it would have been one of those type of things where, hey, I didn't make the NFL, but hey, I mean, I'm you know, NIL.
Who was the kid just a few years ago for Florida State? That, I mean, he was having a really good career, and then he started, I don't know, the yips. He missed a few times.
Aguayo,
got into the
Aguayo, yeah. He got drafted in the first or second round of the Bucks.
Yeah. But didn't he have some kind of like slight injury?
I don't think so.
I was thinking that he had some slight injury that had to be taken care of between the combine and the between the end of the season and the combine that he was healing from, and that could have just been fan theory. I mean,
Roberto,
you guys know it. I spent hours on TikTok, so there's no telling if there was any legitimacy to that or not. I mean, I've seen TikToks today telling me that DeMar Hamlin wasn't actually at the game last night when I legitimately saw him at the game last night. So, you know, that's just TikTok for you. So that could just be bad information. I'll have to look it up later.
Hey, Drew, people won't remember this probably since he's such a stud kicker now, but Daniel Carlson, stud at Auburn, got drafted in the second round of the Vikings and got released.
Right.
I'm pretty sure before the season was out and got picked up by the Raiders. And now he's the most accurate kicker in the NFL.
Yeah. I think his brother will end up being the same way. He'll not last the first place that he goes. It's tough too, right? Because somebody for example, the Packers released their preseason field goal kicker this year. Well, you're competing with Mason Crosby. Of course you're going to get released. Yeah. You know? Like, we know your guy. You're just here to meet everybody. In case Crosby gets hurt, we can pick you up from home, this offseason. So,
but as Bob Knight said when he was being interviewed by Jeremy Schaap, he said, your dad was a very good sports reporter, and you're not your dad. And that's the same way I feel between Daniel Carlson and Anders Carlson. He is not the kicker that Daniel Carlson is.
It's like the little kid
he did get hurt, but he was blowing field goals before that. Or maybe just the important ones. I don't know.
You're so sick.
I mean, that's like the little kid from Kindergarten Cop. When he was talking with Mr. Kimball, and he was like, he was talking about teachers, and he was just like, she was a lot better than you. And then, and Gus, my T-ball coach, he's a lot better than you. I mean, so that's what that Bobby Knight interview made me think of. So
we went over this, guys, and let's just do a vote again, because apparently Josh has amnesia. If you get to have the number 5 all-time scorer in the SEC as your kicker, do you pick him? I think I do.
Sounds
like if that's
sounds like an offense that can't put the ball in pay dirt to me.
it's always a kicker, though. It's always a kicker. Alabama's kicker is going to be the #1 leading scorer next season and all time. He's going to pass Daniel Carlson. I mean, it's going to be with an asterisk because of the whole COVID thing. But what's his name? Will Reichert? Isn't that his name?
Yeah.
Or whatever. He's going to destroy it. But it's because of all the field goals. All the extra points. They were scoring 42 points a game in the 2020 season. Like, it was ridiculous. You kick that many extra points, of course you're going to be up there. He averaged, I think, 13 points a game or something like that. Wow. It was insane. And it wasn't because the offense was performing. It was because he was literally out there every 5 minutes.
That's true.
Yes,
I like
and I'm not an Alabama fan.
I know we got to get to Rod, but I liked your micro yip because I have a micro yip for you. Bill Buckner, 1986 World Series, a 300 career hitter.
Too soon. I'm just kidding. I remember watching that game live. But you know what most
Coming up on 37
realize,
years ago.
You know what they don't realize? That was Game 6.
It was Game 6.
Yeah.
Could have won the series.
You know what they also
won
don't realize?
First 2 in New York, and then lost 2 in Boston, 2 out of 3, and then they were back in Flushing at the time at Shea Stadium. So
you know what they also don't remember? Steve Bartman was in Game 6 as well.
I was just about to talk about Steve Bartman. I was just about to say Steve Bartman, Craigo.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Well, it's funny you're coming back to baseball. The one I can think of is the legitimate case of the yips. Like, this is where I even learned the term. Was back in the 90s, the Atlanta Braves had a closer named Mike Stanton.
Yep.
That was like our go-to guy. And then all of a sudden, he just couldn't get the job done anymore. And it was 100% in here. Like, they just had to cut ties with him. They were like, you can't do this here. It was sad because he was like my favorite pitcher, you know, and I know that's outlandish to think that was my favorite pitcher, especially now that we know the talent that they had at the time on their pitching squad, that he was my favorite. But like, it was like, oh, here he is closing it out. You know, I associated him saves wins, right? That's what I thought, you know. And then suddenly he just couldn't get the job done. It was crazy. That was the first time I'd ever saw it. It was wild.
Nice career. He had a nice career though.
He did.
Yeah, I think he pitched with the Red Sox and some other places. So he revitalized his career.
I think for sure. It was 100% the pressure of being on the Braves, right? To go to the big show and to lose like they were doing, because he was not a part of the World Series team. He was cut by then. I'm pretty sure anyway he was cut by then. He wasn't the go-to closer at that point. No. But yeah, so I mean, you know, it was 100% mental. I mean, it really was. He had some things he had to get over. He got over them, and it was great.
All right, Rod, close us out, man.
All right. So, first and foremost, man.
Oh, no, you said Nick Anderson. That's right. You said
I did. But I can close us out with this. I mean, I would definitely be able to say here, we are seriously loving Mr. Eric right now here, man.
Thank you.
I mean, you know, just like I said, we've been talking about it from since day one, and you've been with us since day one. Your knowledge has been just amazing, and just your insight is awesome too. And so before we get to our next segment, tell us a little bit about, you know, what it's been like listening to this podcast. What are some things that have really stood out to you that keep you coming back?
Yeah, well, listen, I appreciate it very much, Rod. I appreciate the opportunity tonight. I think just, you know, I like the discussion. I like the way it flows. I mean, you guys flow. It fits together. It's easy. Like we talked about, you know, having a conversation, debating those topics that, you know, you always wonder about. You know, hey, you sit there and you see something, you're watching sports, and you're like, golly, this would be such a great topic. And, you know, we all trying to find that outlet and stuff. And, you know, in terms of getting away sometimes from our everyday life. And I just think it's been really, you know, been really cool. Your knowledge, all three of you, is outstanding. And I like the flow of it. I just think it really flows, and you guys play well off of each other. I think you have great topics too. And I'll say this: your trivia questions, they're legit. I mean, they're legit, and they are difficult for anybody who's out there. If you don't cheat, okay, I promise you, most of you probably can't answer.
They've been hard, man. Speaking of those, Crago.
Yeah, what's the trivia called now?
Yes, tell us.
Man, and the trivia has a new name. I had to get permission, so when we get big, I had to make sure that he understood that he was only going to get a small percentage of the winnings. But the trivia is now called Uncle Joe's Trivia.
There we go.
Uncle Joe. So for those of y'all that don't remember, Uncle Joe is actually who came up with the plant on the helmet trivia, which has hit 67,000 views on TikTok. So that's our most popular video on TikTok, even more popular than the Jordan trivia. So I talked to him this evening, and he said, yes, we could definitely name it Uncle Joe's Trivia. But Uncle Joe was born in 1942, okay? So loyal listeners, remember, when I give you these trivia questions, do what Uncle Joe would do. Make Uncle Joe proud of you. Don't Google the question. That kind of takes the fun out of it. Pretend like you're at a bar, right? You're at a bar, and the guy's standing on the stage with his mic, and you can barely hear him, and he's spitting out trivia questions, and you can't have any phones out, anything like that, right? Because there'll be somebody that points and calls that person a cheater, right? So make sure that you are listening to these trivia questions and then just answer them from the top of your head. That's what makes this fun. So without further ado, while I get off my soapbox here for a minute.
Shout out to Uncle Joe.
Shout out to Uncle Joe. That's right. I don't know if Uncle Joe will be listening, but Aunt Margie's definitely listening. So shout out to Aunt Margie. So the first question of the night is this. There are 3 football players that won a Heisman Trophy, a national championship, and a Super Bowl. Name those 3 players.
That should be a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to get a lot of dialogue going in the comments, for sure.
Kevin Franz just tuned in. Give us a comment, Kevin. We might try to
Besides
bring
being
you on
happy
to
that
see if
you
we
get
can
to be
have
in
5.
Kansas City.
What's that, right?
I said, besides being that you're going to be happy to be in Kansas City for the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, hope
That's right.
you got that ATL refund, sir. So hope the Mercedes-Benz Stadium gave you that money back.
Will Patrick Mahomes be there? Who knows?
They actually said today that he will not only play, but he'll be in better shape than he was when he had the high ankle sprain a couple years ago. I remember that. I think it was a Thursday night game. He had a high ankle sprain, and he still continued to play. But they're saying this one wasn't as bad as that one. So hopefully
no
we'll have a
tightrope
good
surgery.
Yeah, I was about to say tightrope surgery.
Yep.
In 7 days, a lot of posturing going on this far out. I think we all expect him to play, but
yeah,
as good as new. I don't know. We'll see.
If anybody wants to see what a high ankle sprain looks like, hit our inbox and I'll send you a picture of my ankle. Day 6, day 14, day 22. It had every color of the rainbow. Yeah.
That was pretty bad.
Yeah. Remember, Rod, I came back to work the next day without
it was
crutches.
bad.
And I was dancing
so bad
at the party and all this stuff. And then I was in crutches and a boot for the next 6 weeks.
Yeah,
I remember.
I was going to say the high ankle sprains are weird, right? Because just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something.
Exactly right.
It's kind of like, and I hate to derail trivia for this, but the Patrick Mahomes thing, him going back in, and it's like, ooh, should he have went back in? Because is that going to hurt you the next week? And then if you play him this week, you got a bigger game coming up the next week if you win. But if you don't play them, maybe you don't win. So, I mean, it's tough, right?
Definitely. You gotta win one at a time, right? So you gotta put them in there to win.
Right.
I don't think Henny's beaten the Cincinnati Bengals. Now that 98-yard drive, and I know we haven't gotten to the playoff section, but that 98-yard drive was stout. But yeah, I don't see that happening again against the Bengals.
Josh, that's a good trivia question, man.
You like
I'm
that
telling
one?
you.
Very
now
good.
you gotta. I'll tell you what. Just a little tidbit. To anybody out there trying to tackle this, you gotta be savvy. You gotta think.
You do, no doubt.
Might have a little curveball thrown your way there.
Yes.
Right. That's right. So the second question is, there's only one center to beat Shaquille O'Neal, Hakeem Olajuwon, and David Robinson in the same playoff season. Name that player.
This is gonna be a real good one here.
Yeah.
Yes, so there you go. The first edition of Uncle Joe's Trivia.
Look, that last one, I don't even know if you could Google that one.
Like,
I mean, it would be like
The encyclopedia.
obscurefacts.com or whatever has this one, because you're so specific. I really
you need
don't
to know basketball.
Yeah.
Oh, how about Snopes?
Maybe.
Has any center ever beaten these three, green light or red light?
Yeah.
There you go. But remember, Uncle Joe doesn't cheat.
That's right.
We don't cheat in our trivia. We think. Isn't that right, Eric?
That's right.
We think.
That's right.
Because let it be known that first trivia question came from the one and only Eric Knowlton.
Yes, sir.
When we were
It is.
at dinner on Saturday night. And what did I do, Eric? I used my brain.
You did.
Right? I used my brain. And how many did I come up with, Eric?
No. Actually, of the original, you came up with none.
No, I came up. Oh, you're right.
No. You're right. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
It's a technicality, Craig.
The technicality.
Yeah.
That's right.
And we sat for about 5 hours at dinner and some after activity. So
That's right.
And Josh
I'll
would
give
not let me give him hints or tell him.
Oh, no,
exactly right.
he's definitely not going to let you do that. He's going to be like a dog on a bone trying to get it.
And I gave him one that he never got. I think he still hasn't gotten, in fact.
I narrowed it down, though.
Narrowed it down? Okay, don't talk about it, though. That's next week.
No, I got it, but I narrowed it down.
Okay. All right. So that'll be coming up next week. So we'll give you the answers at the end of the show.
So
I think Kevin...
That one wasn't the one you asked me, was it?
It was.
It was?
Yeah. Yes.
That was so not even fair. Like you were talking earlier, Eric, about how you're just this you just know all these obscure facts or whatever. I think that was pregame. But like, so Josh asked me that question and I know it like that. Like it was but it was such a stupid reason.
Gotcha.
Is the reason that I knew it. And it was near and dear to me, but only me. Like that was the reason. And I'm not going to go into further detail than that.
I think I know what that may have been. I'll say this. I'll just say this. I was able to get it narrowed down to the program. I'll put it that way. The correct program.
Yeah, so the program I was enamored with for 4 seasons.
Okay.
Well, maybe like 5 or 6, until they kind of went into oblivion. One of the people from said program is my favorite YouTuber. So that's one of the reasons that again, it's not only near and dear to me, but it was still fresh in my mind.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And that's the only hint I'm giving you. Since you know the program, you're gonna go on YouTube. How many of these jokers can I find on YouTube?
There you
I
go.
think Josh saw it watching some old game and just flashed it on the television screen.
It seems like an Affleck trivia question to me.
Probably
No.
Only fans of that particular team would know it, right? Which is, of course, why I knew it, because I liked that team for that time frame. So
I'll plug next week who gave me that one.
All right.
And the cool thing about this, Eric, is no one will hear what you said about the technicality, right? We have like 5 people that listen to the podcast live sometimes.
Yeah.
And a few that'll listen on Apple Podcasts or whatever. But the way the question will go viral won't have that technicality piece in it.
Gotcha.
So they'll really have to think about who these 3 players are. Yes.
yeah, we're a podcast, but we really just dissect this podcast so that we get views.
Yeah.
Like we're most famous for 6 seconds of the hour that you're listening. That's
That's the key. I mean, it's kind of like what we talk about kickers, right? I mean, you got 60-minute games, and most of the time they're famous or infamous for a couple of seconds of a kick or missed kick. So we're basically a microcosm of that.
That's
man.
right.
Kicker and a long snapper, right?
Yeah, there you go.
You don't ever want to be in the news. No one wants to know your name if you're a long snapper.
no.
That's a ticket in the NFL to being cut or something else. So.
I've personally known of one long snapper in my entire life. I was friends with him. He played at the UAB Blazers, and he successfully stayed out of the headlines. Like nobody knew him. And outside of that, I don't think I could name another long snapper.
Yeah, one of my best friends worked with us was a long snapper in college.
Really?
West
See,
Alabama.
I would have known that person, and I didn't even know they were a long snapper.
Oh, you know him very well.
Who's that?
Joe Amos.
Really?
Mind blown.
Wow.
Worked with the dude for a decade almost.
He was a long
No.
snapper. Like almost got a call to the combine for a long snapping.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's awesome.
He's
Yeah.
actually a pretty amazing long snapper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mind is blown now. See, and again, I
It goes
actually
back to
knew-
what Eric just said. You don't even know him.
I
Well,
knew
You can be
that
walking next to
guy-
a long snapper and never know it.
I knew that guy for
Patriots
a
fan.
longer period of my life than I actually knew the guy that I could name that went to UAB as a long snapper.
4 years, West Alabama long snapper.
My mind is blown. I'm
Patriots fan, and long snapper might go in the first round. Because Belichick, that's so Belichick. You know, you pick some long snapper from some obscure university in the first round, second round, something like that. So
if you need it, you need it, right?
My analytics tell me to get it now.
yeah, he won't be there in the seventh. He won't be there in the undrafted free agents.
Yeah.
I promise. It's such a hot commodity.
Although this is the same team that got Mac Jones in like the 20th pick or something like that.
15.
It's just like,
Yep.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
just like
but the jury's still out on Mac Jones. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. 100%. But also Cole Strange.
Yeah.
First round
Look,
guard.
the only quarterback that was drafted before Mac Jones that you could say the jury's still out on is Trey Lance. And I mean,
Yeah.
I think Mac Jones was
I
the
guess.
better pickup than Trey Lance.
I think
Yeah.
the jury came back to the courtroom and announced that Trey Lance will not be the quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers.
he
Yeah.
could be the Dallas Cowboys, though.
Well, like Stephen A. Smith said this morning, they paid Dak Prescott $95 million over the last 2 years for one playoff win. That's yeah. I can see the reactions amongst
Y'all.
the other three.
Y'all, how about Ezekiel Elliott being
Oh,
the
boy.
center?
Yeah, no, yeah.
Completely getting trucked. What?
Hey, Drew, your text message to us was so awesome and so timely. That he's like, this may be the worst center of all time.
It could be. The center is supposed to do the pancaking. The center is supposed to do the pancaking.
I mean, it was like
Chuck
a snippet from the Little Giants.
Pagano just said, "Thank God." Somebody finally bailed me out from that play I ran a few years ago with the Colts. I mean, it's like I'm now not the worst play caller of all time. That literally went down as your worst play caller.
The seeing him like upended like that, like I mean, like a child flying through the air, like it was almost unnecessary how hard he got hit. But I'm gonna do the same thing if I'm outweighing the dude by 100 clean, right?
Let's get them talking about something other than the fact that we didn't deliver in the playoffs. I wonder, was that the thought process before calling the play?
The annexation of Puerto Rico didn't work. I mean, I'm stunned.
Yeah.
Well,
that was
okay,
the play from
so
the Little Giants.
He was supposed to get the ball to hot hands.
So I've analyzed the play. And he threw the ball to the wrong receiver, is what he did. I think the Cowboys legitimately thought that he was not that the 49ers would not rush the ball. That's what I legitimately think happened. They thought, oh, they've got 3 men lined up. They're going to drop them back, and they were going to go to the slot receiver is what they were going to go to, which, immediately to the left, short throw, 3 yards. Now think about that. As long as you complete the pass in enough time, you've got your lineman there to block downfield, and you're going to do hook and ladder all the way to the end zone. In theory, is what I think he was thinking. It was, let's make Zeke ineligible because, we've got to have blockers and we've got to have our hands team here. And we've got 4 people with hands. We've got Dak that's fairly mobile, that's not going to be ineligible to sort of take that Zeke thing. Zeke, I guess, was supposed to be the most useless player on the field.
I think he was just supposed to play dead and maybe eventually get a lateral.
Right?
Yeah.
That'll work better than what happened.
Although I was going to say he didn't really have to play dead.
But when you line up over the ball, if the Indianapolis Colts can teach us anything, when you line up over the ball with 1 man, you're going to kill the quarterback. That's all you have to do is kill the quarterback. And the quarterback saw the fear of God, and he threw it to whomever would catch the ball. And that guy just so happened to be covered by the entire 49ers defense.
Yeah. Hey, it was like Tecmo Bowl. It was like Tecmo Bowl when you picked the right play.
Right.
Yeah,
When you both had the same play. Yeah. That's what it looked like. It was hands down the dumbest thing. If you pull that snap off in 2 seconds of the play clock, I think it's different, right? Because you confuse the defense because they're like, I don't know what's going on. Zeke's the center, what? But you have to declare Zeke as the center so that it's an announcement. The whole world knows.
I think
Zeke Elliott's the center. He hasn't even got over the ball yet, and the ref's like, hey, they got their 20-pound running back as the center. He's only 5'8". It's gonna work out great for them, guys. Let's watch this. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and step off the field. You don't need me anymore as the referee. There's no more calling of plays anymore. So this is just going to – Zeke might die here because he's got 3 –
I thought he was going to turn to the side like in flag football and just throw it to Dak.
I think D'Amico Ryan called timeout because he couldn't stop laughing. He had to compose himself for a minute. Is this absurdity really that I think I'm seeing? Literally. But I have to give you – hey, listen, I have to give you an A+ for that defense. It's probably the best I've seen since Johnny Cochran with OJ. I mean, trying to defend whatever that was that they just did yesterday.
All right, well, Drew, tell us what led to that play, right? Wasn't there a tight end that had 2 bonehead mistakes?
Oh, my God.
Well, okay. So the Cowboys versus the 49ers time management skills are exactly what Stephen Covey in the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People were telling you not to do. They're like, holy crap. I can't believe 2 years in a row you're playing the same team. You have the same situation lined up, and you're going to waste time off the clock. You're going to prance out of bounds like that. You got to be going forward, Chief. You can't just run. It's not a timeout here. You got to actually go out of bounds. So
and make sure you actually get 2 feet in before you decide to leisurely stroll out of bounds.
And those are back-to-back plays. Back-to-back plays. You have one that you just leisurely stroll out of bounds and it doesn't stop the clock. Then you have another one where you do the same thing, except for you're catching the ball while you do it.
My 7-year-old daughter could have got 2 feet in, before, going out of bounds there.
But this is the Cowboys. This is what they do. They lived up to their expectation. They talk about being a Super Bowl team and, championships, but this is who they are. Kyle Brandt said that this morning on NFL Network, and I saw the clip on Twitter. I mean, he's like, I don't know where they get this. They're not a championship, organization.
What amazes me about the whole situation is Elijah Mitchell. This is twice for the 49ers. Elijah Mitchell has somehow managed to screw up our last drive where it's just chew the clock. Don't get out of bounds, whatever you do. And this is 2 games that he has managed to get out of bounds, and us sitting there going, well, we just gave it to the other team. And the other team says, no, guys, we want you to go to the Super Bowl. Here you go. One was obviously before the playoffs, and then this one was in the playoffs. And I'm just like, Jesus, Elijah.
Yeah, the thing that obviously helped him was the Snagglepuss play from the Cowboys to end it, which is basically exit stage right.
Right.
Yeah, when I saw Elijah Mitchell run out of bounds like that, the talking heads were like, oh, well, he got pushed out of bounds. Man, you sit down, right, Tank Bigsby?
I was just about to say, Ray, made me think of Tank Bigsby.
Right. Right. I'm apparently supposed to have meetings with my teams to tell them this, because every team I root for decides to send their running back out of bounds for whatever reason when it's not the appropriate time to do that.
So let me throw this out there. McCarthy, back next year?
What was that?
Mike McCarthy
back? Is he back next year?
I mean, who are they going to get?
Sean Payton?
You really think Sean Payton would be willing to work with Jerry Jones?
Nope.
Only if he comes in and does what Nick Saban did at Alabama.
But do you really think Jerry Jones would be willing to do that?
If Jerry's getting old,
smart like the boosters were and the president was at Alabama.
I think there's enough years behind him to know, and now there's that narrative out there. Hey, Jerry, it was Jimmy. I mean, that's when he had his success.
That's exactly.
And if you're Sean Payton, I'll say this: the Chargers had come open. I really thought they would have gotten rid of, that they were going to get rid of Brandon Staley. But, when you look in the landscape, you want to go to Denver? Russell Wilson? I'm not touching that. I mean, Arizona with Kyler Murray, where you got to write into his contract that he has to study. Yeah. Hopefully that was fairly well known throughout the league. So that was, that was a message being sent by the organization. I just don't know. Because when you look at the Cowboys, are they really that close under Mike McCarthy to being a Super Bowl, winner? I mean, the 49ers, granted, no matter, D'Amico's likely going to be gone, so you're going to have to battle that. The Eagles aren't going away. I just wonder if, as impulsive as Jerry Jones, I just wonder if he pulls the trick. I told Josh that the other night. I said, I think, if they don't make it, at least make it to the Super Bowl, I think he's gone. I really do. So
he's not going to get them to the promised land. That's for sure.
It's tough for me. I mean, okay, let's just throw out a hypothetical here. Okay. You've got a coach that every year he's been your coach. He gets you to the playoffs. Every year he's been your coach, he gets you to the playoffs. Do you fire that coach?
I think so. It depends on what you're looking for. If your goal is just to be in a conversation in the playoffs, then maybe you don't. But if your goal is ultimately to win one, and if you've got a track record of getting to the playoffs I don't think that there's another gear or something that you're missing that's going to get you from point A to point B if there's been a long period of time where you're just kind of stuck where you are, you know?
Well, so I guess the scenario isn't just getting to the playoffs, right? Because the Cowboys are they didn't win their division because of the Eagles, right? I mean, we're not talking about the Seahawks getting to the playoffs here, right? The only reason the Seahawks weren't 500 was because we now play 17 games, right? We're not talking about the Buccaneers getting to the playoffs because they're in the worst division in the NFL. We're talking about, you know, a team that won some games. Keep in mind, the team that has won the most games against opponents over 500, I don't see how you can justify getting rid of that coach to shake up what you have going. Do you make personnel changes? Probably. Do you make him take a step back? Probably. Here and there. Get an offensive stud, get a defensive stud, whatever he needs. Do you get the right people surrounding the quarterback? Maybe. Do you get rid of your quarterback if he's Dak Prescott? Definitely. I think that's what they need.
I mean, here's the thing I look at, though. You look at the end of that game, you know, not great play calling from them when they had the ball with just under 2 minutes left, right? I mean, just over 2 minutes left. You have to punt the ball away to San Francisco. Amazing play calls. Like throwing the pass for a first down, like right before the 2-minute warning when the Cowboys were counting on like that being a timeout. I'm just saying, like, you just see a different level of how to operate with a game on the line, like in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, even with the Cowboys getting the game, even with, like you said, Eric, the annexation of Puerto Rico, snag a plus, you know, exit stage right, whatever it may be, at no point did anybody have any confidence in the fact that the Cowboys were going to go 90 yards without a timeout to tie that game up. Or, well, I mean, it will go for 2 because the kicker you had anyway. So I'm just saying, like, that's really also a testament to we don't think that we have somebody that can win a game like that for us. You know, they were clearly still outclassed from a coaching standpoint over there. I mean, like, there was never a question. It's far superior here.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying. Kind of like how Andy Reid was in Philadelphia when they got rid of him.
Yeah.
And he went to the Chiefs and was very successful. Keep in mind, the only reason Mike McCarthy was available to come to the Cowboys was because he got let go, right?
Yes.
Right.
For a terrible season that was without Aaron Rodgers at Green Bay. And now you put in a powerhouse offensive guy who had the exact same success as Mike McCarthy did at Green Bay. You know, I think it might be on the field personnel that's the problem. Again, I'll give you the last drive. The last drive's terrible. We've done it 2 years in a row. A wild card team against you know, their divisional champ. It ended the way everybody expected it to end that wasn't a Cowboys fan. But I definitely do think that you're right. There's going to be talk. I'm not disagreeing that there's not going to be talk about letting him go. I'm not even saying it would shock me if they let him go. It wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't surprise me at all that he got let go. But then he's going to go somewhere else after a season off, and he's going to, you know, lose to the 49ers in the divisional playoffs again.
But, I mean, there's one thing that is fair to say about the Dallas Cowboys, especially over the last, say, 20 years. If it's always the coach that's the problem, at some point it's got to be the owner that's always been the problem.
No question. No question.
You know, I tell my kids all the time that if it's always somebody else's fault, then it is most definitely your fault.
Well, I'll throw the Browns at you every time, right? If you ever say the coaching staff's the problem. The Browns had Belichick and Nick Saban on their freaking coaching staff at the same time. You don't get a star-studded coaching staff like that unless those coaches retire and then coach the Pro Bowl, right? It never happens. It never lines up. What's the problem? The Browns are the problem.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Just like I think the Cowboys are the problem.
Yep.
And Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
And Dak
So
Prescott, right? Like he worked on all those franchise tags for all those years. He had that horrendous ankle injury, and they still gave him 4 years, 160 million or whatever the number was, ridiculous. And he just hasn't been the Dak Prescott since. Now, granted, they got rid of Amari Cooper for a bag of rocks. I don't remember exactly what they got for him, but that was stupid in and of itself. But these passes that he's throwing in the first quarter, like, what did he see on the sideline, right? So that's how the Niners got 3 points. Then they were in field goal range at the end of the first half, and he throws a pick, which then the Niners get a 50-yard field goal from the incomparable, don't the Bears wish they had, Robbie Gould, right? So, I mean,
well,
there's 9 points right there. And if not, we could be having a completely different conversation potentially.
Well, when it comes down, when you talk about the money, you have Dak Prescott, and he lost to a 7th round draft pick that's making $500,000. I mean, you know, and listen, I'm actually a believer in Brock Purdy. I mean, I think that kid's done a tremendous job. I think he knows his limitations, and he plays to his limitations. He doesn't try to do anything, and that's a credit to me, to Kyle Shanahan as well, with the way he's set him up. But I think at the end of the day, when you look at it from an investment standpoint, you go out there and Dak Prescott gets outplayed in a game like that. You know, I agree. I think it'll be interesting to see. I think it's probably a combination of both. And probably what will end up happening is Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator, he'll be the one that pays the price. You know, versus McCarthy. But, I just don't see, just like we were talking about with Sean McDermott in Buffalo. I mean, there's going to come a point in time where you're wasting these guys, these generational talents, you're wasting their prime. And then they're going to be on the wrong side of, on the wrong side of their career and the injuries, which both of them have had. And you only have such a short window. And I think that's why you see a lot of the impulsive decisions by these owners. And rightfully so.
I agree 100%.
Could y'all believe Tre'Davious White and Jordan Poyer colliding yesterday? Man, the Bills just they get out of their own way, for lack of a better way to make that point, I guess. But to your point about Brock Purdy, I mean, the guy, he's unbelievable, right? He's won 7 in a row, Drew? Niners have won 12 in a row, I believe. And
I'm gonna give him 8.
Oh, yeah. 8. That was the 8th. Okay. Did y'all know that Brock Purdy was somewhat recruited by Nick Saban?
Yes, in fact, because I'm a big college football fantasy player, and what's his name? The guy that I'm trying to think of, the running back for Iowa State that was with him there.
Breece Hall.
Breece Hall. It was my fantasy keeper in college football fantasy. So I was very well versed with Purdy. And the thing is, he obviously didn't put up these video game numbers in college, but the guy was special, and the guy was a winner there. So I mean, he was just in a run heavy type of system, but he was tailor made to manage an NFL roster if he ever got a chance.
Well, I mean, he was. I've been reminiscent of the game this week, right? I think I might have mentioned it to you guys earlier in text. Maybe that was somebody else I was talking to. Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy faced each other in college, right? On paper, Brock Purdy beat Jalen Hurts, but the score of the game ended up being 42-41. Oklahoma won that game. So yeah, it's if you haven't heard that story yet, it's Monday, right? We'll be hearing all about it on Thursday. By the time Sunday rolls around, they'll have all the stats and all the reels, put up and everything, right? We'll see all of it. So it's going to be interesting seeing those two guys. So we had originally projected who was going to the Super Bowl. I said it was going to be Bills 49ers. Josh said it was going to be Bills 49ers. Rod, you had said Chiefs versus 49ers. So far, you're staying strong. So who do you like, Josh, as your replacement? Are you still going 49ers, or are you changing that one? And are you going Bengals or Chiefs?
I think I'm going to go definitely Philadelphia. And I think I'm going to stick with the Chiefs. Arrowhead's a tough place to play. I think Mahomes will be ready, and I think the defense will really step up, much like they did in the Raiders game, last game of the regular season. I mean, I know it's the Raiders, but y'all know what I mean. They just have an edge about them, kind of hitting on all cylinders, and I think they'll find a way to beat the Bengals. Of course, I can't stand the Bengals as well, so maybe that's part of my biased opinion also.
All right.
What do you think, Drew?
I'm going 49ers Bengals, but I'm doing that for a reason. I'm doing it for history reason. If the 49ers and the Bengals play each other in the Super Bowl, it will set a record for the most matchups in the Super Bowl between two teams at 4.
That's right.
Wow. Or excuse me, it'll tie with 3.
No, 3.
It'll tie with 3. Who was the other one? The Cowboys and
Cowboys and the Steelers.
Yes, thank you. That's the other one at 3. So it'll tie that matchup there. So I've got to go with that side of history. Even though I'm a little nervous as a 49ers fan about the Eagles, I just don't think the Chiefs are going to be playing as well as the Chiefs would like to be playing against the Bengals. That's the only reason why I say that. I'm scared for Patrick Mahomes right now. You guys know my feelings of injured players playing on the football field. I'm nervous. I really am for him. And it only gets worse. Understand that. Chiefs fan who is in the audience. It only gets worse from here. If you beat the Bengals and there is even a smidge of Patrick Mahomes being injured, he is either going to face the number 1 or number 2 defense in the Super Bowl. That's it. So, I can't see the Chiefs winning a Super Bowl. I could see them making it. Honestly, I'm picking the Bengals on a stretch just because they're hot. Kind of like 49ers. I think the 49ers are hot right now, so maybe they'll find a way to win.
I thought about the spirit of the 1989 Super Bowl and it being the Bengals and 49ers and reliving Montana to John Taylor in the back of the end zone. But I like Brock Purdy. I just don't trust him on the road against the Eagles right now. I'm wondering. I can't see them producing enough points to win that game right now, just because of just how that last game played out and how things are going. So I'm gonna say we're gonna have the Eagles against the Bengals.
All right, Eric.
Yep.
You didn't have a previous pick, so give us your pick. Who's going to the Super Bowl?
I agree with Rod. Bengals, Eagles. I do believe in, like he said, and I mentioned earlier, I do believe in Brock Purdy, but I don't think he gets it done on the road in a really hostile environment. I just can't see him coming through in that situation. I think the defense can, certainly the defense speaks for itself. But I think the Eagles and the Bengals, I think are the best two that are left. I really do. Overall, just in terms of complete teams, I think what the Bengals were able to do walking into Buffalo and making that look easy in a hostile environment. Joe Burrow, I think, like I said, he's calm, cool, collected. So yeah, I like Bengals, Eagles.
Here's one of my favorite things about this whole conversation. Taking back to what the media was saying, the big hype about the Jaguars being in the wrong spot, right? Because we know they shouldn't have been there. Mm-hmm. But the big hype for the Jaguars was, Trevor Lawrence has never lost on Saturday. Mm-hmm. And guess what? He gets to play on Saturday. Mind blown. We can't bet against him because he's never played on Saturday. You guys are think about it logically, right? You absolutely are thinking about it with a rookie quarterback. You would never pick a rookie quarterback to beat the number 1 seed. You wouldn't do that. But may I remind you, you're betting against a rookie quarterback that has never lost a football game in the NFL. So I'm just throwing that out there. Josh, I know you had something to say. Sorry I cut you off.
No, you're fine. Isn't it amazing that we're sitting here talking about three of us are talking about the Philadelphia Eagles playing in the Super Bowl when wasn't it 2 years ago that Jalen Hurts got benched in the last game of the regular season with the playoffs on the line?
Yep.
Because he was basically ineffective. And they were talking about, we don't know if we have a quarterback next year. And I think next year was last year. And obviously he showed a lot of promise. And then this year, get a young fella from Tennessee.
Barring injury, I think he would have been MVP this year.
Yeah. I think so too.
And Josh, there's history. Remember, he got benched for Tua. Won an SEC championship game against Georgia.
That's right.
It's going to be sad to see him benched in the NFC championship game.
Yeah.
This just means he'll come back and win the Super Bowl, right?
You expect to see old jean shorts out there?
The question is, will T.O., if the Eagles win, will T.O. and Donovan McNabb hug on the sideline pregame in the Super Bowl? Bury that hatchet. I'm just saying. Remember, there were some strong comments there about,
Oh, big time.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're talking about important matchups. Let's go to the end and wrap this one up. We got another important matchup we wanted to talk about. Josh, you brought this one up. You brought this to the table. This is a pet peeve of yours, I feel like, because you have mentioned this on multiple occasions, especially pertaining to your wife. But Coke versus Pepsi. That's our final debate for the day. Coke versus Pepsi. So something interesting happened to your wife. Tell us about it. What happened?
Yeah, definitely. She was standing here a little while ago. I think she was ready for this segment because she was going to make a cameo, so she could get in here on it. But yeah, man, we went to an establishment in New York, which will remain nameless, right? Because we have no idea how many millions will be listening to this at some point, right? And we want to make sure that we don't have any skeletons. So we don't want to upset the owner of this restaurant, who will at some point listen to this podcast. So we go to this diner in New York, and my kids and my wife all order Cokes. The server says, okay, 4 Cokes and a water. Comes back to our table, sets the glasses down. My kids, my wife take their first sip, and they're like, ugh, this is Pepsi. So I said, wow, this is podcast material. How can, if it's okay if you don't serve Coke, but at least have the courtesy to say we only have Pepsi products.
You know what's weird?
It still would have been bad because, the freestyle machines, they have Dr. Pepper, right? So even if you don't like Coke, you can have Dr. Pepper. There she is right there.
She going to tell me I'm not her friend, right? Before we get the Sigma.
That's right.
Just preview.
That's exactly right. So in most places, if they have Pepsi fountains, they always have what? Dr. Pepper. Or if they serve Pepsi, they have Dr. Pepper. Buffalo Wild Wings, they have Pepsi there, but they have Dr. Pepper, right? So just have the courtesy to say we only have Pepsi products, but then carry Dr. Pepper. I don't even think they carried root beer. So everybody had to drink Pepsi. So we were just very happy to get on the plane. We had a connection in Washington, D.C. We went to a little place by the gate. Wolfgang Puck's has like this little fast food joint place. And guess what? All they had, Pepsi products. Oh, and they don't have sweet tea. I don't know if y'all know that.
Where was this again?
They have like Lipton sweet tea. So that's what they were serving us.
I was about to say, where was this again?
This was in D.C. and New York City.
Okay, that's all I got to say here. Sweet tea. I mean, come on. I mean, although it's kind of weird, but I mean, obviously, that's one thing I would expect out of a non-Southern place to not have sweet tea the way in the South we're used to it. But like, we always kind of get stigmatized in the South where, well, you all you ever do is call drinks Cokes, you know? But like, this is New York, and you say Coke, you know, not Coke, not pop, even you say Coke, and they just assume whatever it means, it's just a soda.
That's right.
I would think the opposite.
That's right. That's right.
But
yeah, this isn't like I'm at work and I'm going to say, I'm going to go downstairs and get a Coke at the soda fountain. I mean, at the Coke machine, right? That doesn't mean I'm going to get a Coke. But to your point, Rod, but to your point, if all you have are Pepsi products, let a brother know.
No, exactly.
Well, I don't even understand why they're the same thing, right? It only applies to Pepsi and Coke.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only time a server will literally crap the bed and give you not what you ordered. Because if I say, hey, could I get a Budweiser? They're going to say, oh, we don't have Budweiser. We got Miller, right? That's a fact. You're not going to sneak me a Miller Highline and try to pull that off. I'm not getting a Pabst Blue Ribbon in my Bud Light, right? That's not something that's going to happen. It's only Pepsi and Coke, and they're not the same thing. They're not synonymous. I don't know. And again, people in the South use it synonymously. I don't know why these folks up north were thinking that that's acceptable, but you know, I'm okay. I'm okay if you sell Pepsi products. I'm not saying that, because if I want a Pepsi, I want a Pepsi, and if I want a Coke, I want a Coke. It's not just insert brown liquid into my mouth. Oh, we don't have Pepsi, but we have some diarrhea juice over here. You can drink that. It's brown and liquidy. No, it's not the same thing, you idiots. Why would you even do that to me?
I mean, it might as well have just gave you some Sam's Choice.
Yeah, again, I'm okay with that. If you told me, you know, if I was like, hey, Rod, I want a Coke, and you were like, I got some Sam's Cola in my fridge, I'd be like, yep, that's great. RC Cola, I'm good with that. You name
Dr. Thunder for your Dr. Pepper. I mean,
any brown soda pop, I'm probably okay with it as long as you tell me what that is. I don't say, you know, I want a Coke, and you pour me a glass of orange juice and be like, here you go. Or even worse, you do that if I ask you for Mountain Dew, because Mountain Dew is literally carbonated orange juice, and you still know it's not the same thing.
No.
So why do people think Coke and Pepsi are the same thing? Like, just because the big logo says that? Like, are we two? Is that what? Oh, Pepsi, I want Pepsi. It's the big picture.
Hey, Josh, tell Katie she could have ordered a tab.
That's right. That's right.
That was a discussion the other night. So if Katie's listening, that's my.
I'll have a Diet Right, please.
Made by Coca-Cola Company, by the way, Katie. If you're listening.
That's right. Yes.
She threw me under the bus for one of my answers. There she goes. She responded.
Yeah, the restaurant that we went to in downtown Birmingham Saturday night did not have Coke. They had Pepsi. And so that's kind of where this whole conversation started. But I had a Grape-A-Co, and she had a Dr. Pepper in the bottle. Yes.
Yeah.
So we had options.
Grape-A-Co?
We had options.
Did you get a knee high while you were there?
They didn't have knee.
I was going to say, Grape-A-Co is basically just carbonated Kool-Aid.
It is. Hey, there is nothing like Grape-A-Co and Sunkist, though. Those are two. Man. They're delicacies.
I was looking
if you don't drink wine, you can drink that and exchange them one for one.
I was looking for Tahitian treat, but they didn't have it.
Hit them up with that fruit punch, baby.
A wine punch. Yeah, Josh, I hate to tell you, there were comments being made about your choice of selection the other night. They were kind of looking over there with the side eye going, he really got that?
That is a large 7-year-old that I see over there. Man, that 7-year-old is at least 6 feet tall.
We had his juice box in the car. So, I mean, he had his juice on the way over. And then he maybe
had
a
couple
of beers. So, he
I hadn't had one in 30 years. I had to see what I still like the taste. And it was
My brother always tells me he can't do grape stuff because it reminds him of medicine. So that might ruin Grapico for me. Knowing
with that Diamond Tap, man.
Yeah.
The Delsum. Yeah, Delsum. Yeah.
Delsum, yeah.
Yuck.
I mean, that can't even, like, count as liquid. I mean, it's so thick.
Right. If you got to chew that liquid to get it down your throat, it's not liquid anymore. It could be a Jello.
People that started 2 weeks ago on the little cup, and they're still pouring the last bit of it right now.
Right.
You have to pour like an
watch it
extra
fall into your
milliliter.
mouth.
You have to pour an extra milliliter because it's going to get stuck in the cup.
It's like whenever you're giving your kids medicine, you double the dose because you know they're only going to drink half of it.
There you go.
Parent
Even at 13.
Yep.
Oh, man.
So true.
All right, Josh, we're way over time. Thank you, Eric, for joining. Thank you so much. I told you for 45 minutes. We always go an hour and a half, apparently, this time. So yeah.
Aerobic 45 minutes. 2 more. 3 more. 4 more.
All right. So I guess we got to sign off, right?
I got to give the answers to the trivia question.
Oh, yeah, gosh. I almost
Uncle
forgot.
Joe.
Yes, Uncle Joe's trivia. So here are the answers. So the first question was, what 3 players won a national championship, a Heisman Trophy, and a Super Bowl? And those 3 players were Tony Dorsett, Marcus Allen, and Charles Woodson.
That's right.
Yes. The 1997 Michigan Wolverines.
Right.
Go ahead, Rod, with Marcus Allen and Tony Dorsett. 77 Pittsburgh Panthers?
76 season, 77 game for them, yes.
Yep. Okay. And then Marcus Allen, you're on your own.
Oh my goodness. I want to say it was the mid 70s for him too.
78, Rod. I think it was 78 USC.
Definitely USC.
Wait a minute. Yeah, because Bama was
70.
Bama was 78.
Yeah, 79.
So it was 77
season, probably
That's
one
right.
in 78.
77. You're right.
Yeah.
77 season.
84 Super Bowl.
Correct.
When they beat Washington.
38-9.
Yep. John Riggins and the Hogs and all the Joe Theismann. Yep.
And I'm afraid Charles Woodson was the 2011 Green Bay Packers.
Yeah. I actually thought you guys were going to win it, Craigo.
Shout out to Rashard Mendenhall.
Yeah.
Fumbling the ball.
Yeah.
He actually was flapping his gums about Roethlisberger today, I read. And just go on and enjoy retirement and leave Ben Roethlisberger alone?
I don't understand the hate for Ben Roethlisberger. Actually, I do understand the hate, but it's just time to move on with our lives.
It is time.
Right.
I would agree.
Right. And the second question was, what NBA center beat Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal, and David Robinson in one playoff season? And that was Greg Ostertag.
That's right.
From the Utah Jazz.
0.
Yes. From Kansas, if
That's right.
Kevin is still listening. So, yeah, there's Uncle Joe's trivia for this week. Come back because they'll only get better from here.
That's right.
And if you don't like them, send us some. We'll use them and we'll shout you out, just like we shouted out Eric today.
That's right. He's the man.
That great Heisman Trophy National Championship Super Bowl question. So, all right, Drew. I guess it's time to sign us off, man.
No bueno. I don't sign us off. That's all you.
All right, we'll let Eric sign us off.
Yes,
No,
right.
I'm a guest.
Well,
this is your spot, man. This is your show.
It's your spotlight.
All right, Rod,
your
sign us
time
off.
to shine.
I mean, it's like Eminem said. Come on,
Oh, you want me to?
one shot.
All right.
One shot.
Well, thank you guys for the opportunity. It has been a true pleasure to join you and cut it up. And listen, for everybody out there, if you listen later on, whatever, give these guys a listen. Give them a follow. They do a tremendous job. They're working hard for everybody out there trying to entertain. So, you know, give it a chance. Give them an opportunity. And listen, we thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll see it. We'll catch you on the flip side next time.
Sounds pretty good to me. Check us out at
Couldn't have been
Culture
better.
of Splife on all your social media outlets, as well as Apple Podcasts.